Hello, ciao. Okay. Okay, we are in the perfetto. Ciao, benvenuti a tutti. Welcome to this last Creative Mornings before summer vacation. I'm Maria Chiara, I'm the host of Creative Mornings Milano. Here with me are other members of the team, so if you have any question, curiosity, idea, or you want to participate in Creative Mornings team, whatever, you can ask them or me after the presentation. The theme of July is treasure. It's been illustrated by Spectator Jones. What's a treasure? Treasure is something that is close to your heart. It's something that is on your mind also when you're not there. I remember there is a movie about pirates, and they say pirates have just one obsession, the treasure. But the treasure can be everything. In this case, our treasure could be today. So what we want to invite you to do is to find your obsession and let it guide you like a map, or find more than one and be able to change. Then there are other kinds of treasure, the objective, the goals of the brands, for example. Then we will go deep into the subject later with Gaia. We thank you, thank Mailchimp, our main sponsor, as usual. They created a series of content, especially for all the queer community. So I invite you to go and check them out. Maybe, okay. As usual, so we will start again in September. I invite everyone to bring a friend. Also, make friends here. I know that there are new people today. I hope there will be more and more new people in the next Creative Mornings. Thank you, Spaces, as usual. Thank you to Margherita, the community manager that invited us for the first time. And thank you to Spaces Turati, to our barista there, and to everyone that is welcoming us more and more every time we are coming back. We are coming back here in October with a surprise that will be shown later. Thank you to our sponsor, English Corner, that sponsored the presence of Gaia today, because she's coming from London. She just landed, basically. Thank you to our team, as usual. So, this is me. This is our communication manager. This is our speaker relationship manager. There is Paola. There is Brigitte, who is here. There is Veronica, who is here. And there are also other members that are working behind the scenes and are not here today. So yes, of course, the font of Creative Mornings is very complicated and no one has it installed on their. I'm sorry. That's no problem. That's my problem. What is important is that we are more than 200 cities in the world. We are going to help Kyoto Creative Mornings open exactly now, in these days, and we are very proud to help them. We are also helping Palermo Creative Mornings to develop after a little hiatus. What is Creative Mornings for the new people here? Our focus is creativity, but creativity as a means to welcome everyone, to welcome every identity, to welcome ideas, to welcome the possibility to change your idea. Why not? So everyone is welcome, especially Gaia De Siena. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to quickly change presentations between one and the other, so pretend you're not seeing this. Okay. Hi, everyone. Obviously, my name is Gaia. Thanks for being with us today and with me, and for allowing me to have this space this morning, which I'm really, really grateful for, and to Creative Mornings for having me. First of all, I would like to say sorry and apologize if my mind is a bit spacey this morning, but I landed at 5 a.m. this morning. My flight was supposed to arrive in Milan yesterday at 11. I landed at 5:30, so this was me this morning. In Natal Tempo. I slept 30 minutes, so I'm not really sure I remember everything that I was planning to say to you today, but hopefully we'll be engaging anyway. So before we delve into what I actually want to talk about today, which is kind of like what I do for a job, which is brand strategy, I think I was going to introduce myself a little bit so that we get to know each other's and we understand why I'm talking about what I'm talking today. So my name is, well, I'm from Rome. My name is Gaia, and as a kid, I really wanted to be a marine biologist, which probably is the dream of every 90s kid. It didn't exactly end up like that. I ended up moving to something very remote from oceans and dolphins, which is London. I moved in 2010 to attend a journalism and fashion marketing degree, which I graduated from in 2013. This is me with a fringe, being a bit of an hipster. Doing my graduation thesis on the role of subcultures in the diffusion of innovation theory. So basically what I wanted to assert in my dissertation and investigate was how subcultures have historically been basically the main vehicle for innovation to spread in markets, and how then those innovations that were co-opted by subcultures were then adopted by mainstream culture and became popular. And the case studies that I did was on hipsters. So being an hipster, I did a thesis on hipsters, which might sound really lame right now, but if you remember, if you're there in 2010 and you're a millennial like I am, you remember that this was peak culture in 2010, and this was the main cool style that was going around. So when I graduated, I really didn't exactly know what I wanted to be. This was my ideal mood board. This is who I aspired to be. There's obviously directors, writers, a couple of songwriters and band members. So we've got Kim Gordon, Stevie Nicks, Joe Didion, Sofia Coppola. This was the mood board, and then this is what I tried to be by moving to London. Obviously, I wanted to be a stupid blonde in fashion, writing about fashion and lifestyle, hoping I would become some type of Rachel Green, which isn't exactly what happened. It ended up looking a lot more like this. So me riding under my duvet and crying most of the days and smoking 1,000 cigarettes, which I shouldn't be doing. So as soon as I graduated, I didn't really want to do a master's. I wasn't pursuing an academic route. I started interning, which I'm really grateful that I did. I spent about a year after graduating interning for fashion magazine, fashion like media titles, press offices. And despite it looking kind of glamorous like it is here, it didn't exactly it wasn't glamorous at all. It involved a lot of carrying very heavy suitcases of designer clothing around London in the heat of summer and basically making coffees for people. Does that mean that I didn't learn anything? Not necessarily. I think it's probably that year between 2013 and 14 when I didn't have literally any money. I was splitting the £20 that I was getting for expenses with my friend who was sitting over there. I think I learned the most about the industry then, more than I ever learned in the following 10 years of my experience in the industry. So after 1 year of interning, I finally landed my first job, which was at this jewelry brand over here, which doesn't exist anymore. It was a very small jewelry brand, independently owned, stocked in a bunch of like different department stores around the world. I joined as a press coordinator and social media coordinator, which sounds really weird right now because in 2013 you would never think about joining PR with social media, but in 2023 you would never think of that. But in 2013, brands were just starting to understand the value of social media. So obviously they thought, oh, it's a communication thing, so we'll merge it with PR roles. And that's what kind of happened to me. I joined a very small team as a press officer, and they were like, okay, yeah, here you go. Here's the social media accounts of the brand. You go and do your thing. So I started experimenting with social. I'm really grateful that I had that kind of like really startup feel to the job at the beginning, because not being in corporate allowed me to do a lot of things, experiment with a lot of things that I wanted to do, test a lot. Write a lot of stupid tweets, figure out what customers really wanted to see and wanted to engage with and what they didn't want to. I ended up staying at this brand for actually 3 years, which right now probably seems like a bit of a stupid choice. Sometimes I'm like, why did I stay there for 3 years? The reality is that I didn't really feel like I only left when I felt that I had learned enough to make the jump to corporate, and that's how I landed at ASOS. I joined the brand experience team at ASOS in 2017, the beginning of 2017, which was an incredible experience. I spent basically the team at the time was divided into brand experience, which was basically the whole of marketing. And smart as they are at ASOS, they basically involved brand experience within content, social media, marketing, everything that was communication was brand experience. So even as a content and engagement team, like as a social media person, you will still respond to the global brand strategy for everything that you were doing. So despite my daily job looking a lot like this, it was actually, I had the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of like really top-notch brand strategy at the time from one of the main players in the e-commerce sector. I ended up leaving ASOS really sadly because the team was being restructured. So I ended up leaving on my own accord. But I joined for 6 months an agency that did social media communication for luxury brands. It wasn't exactly my cup of tea. I didn't enjoy my time there. And where I want to get with this is that if you see, obviously, the difference going from this to this was really hard for me. And the reason why it was hard is that I really didn't understand the customer. So I didn't know who I was talking to. I had no idea who these people that were buying expensive jewelry, fine jewelry from a British heritage brand, and great fragrances, which I now know today, but I had no idea who they were and why they were such an important luxury brand at the time, was really, really difficult for me, and I really struggled to understand and engage the customers. Ended up leaving after 6 months, really depressed, and thank God I finally landed at AeroPress, which is where I am today. I've been at AeroPress for 4 years, so for those who don't know it, which I'm not expecting you to, AeroPress is a global marketplace. It's a B Corp certified brand, which means we're fully sustainable, start to end to finish product. It's powered by a huge global community of creators. Similarly to CreativeMorning, we believe, like one of our brand beliefs is that creativity is for everyone, and everyone should be allowed the tools to be creative. So what AeroPress does and what a mission is to enable creativity in a sustainable way and make everyone feel welcome in their efforts to become creative. So the way that AeroPress works is basically a marketplace, similarly to People in a way. You come on the site, you upload your design for merch, usually t-shirts. We're expanding into more products, but usually it's a t-shirt. Come on the platform, decide what you want to do with that design. Do you want to have it as a pre-order for 1, 2, 3 weeks? At the end of the campaign, we'll go and produce a t-shirt, ship it worldwide. You don't have to think of anything. So obviously it's a great tool for creators that are starting from nothing because they don't really have to put anything up front. The beauty of the platform is that it started like that. It ended up being this beautiful platform for global charities, celebrities like Bella Thorne, and many others to come on the platform and decide to fundraise for something that they really had for. So in the past 4 years, we've been able to raise over £500,000 for charities worldwide. That's Amnesty. It's a bunch of different grassroots organizations in Palestine. We set up funds for Ukraine war, for the Beirut explosions, for the Australian wildfires in 2020. Literally, from the biggest to the smallest cause. And yeah, we've been able to pay out 7 million to creators and create this platform, which is really like a beautiful mix of creativity and meaning, which is what I find most engaging for me to work there. It's what I find most inspiring. So obviously you would think I have a creative job because I tend to do this, right? So you would think that because I work in comms and brand strategy, this is what I do all the time. I kind of with nice little platforms, produce nice t-shirts, good lookbooks, and this is what my day looks like. In reality, this is what my day looks like. It's a lot of project management, a lot. It's pretty boring. I don't like it. I don't think I'm really good at it, but I do it anyway. For the sake of making good things happen, just because I feel when you have a good meaning behind what you're doing, you end up liking it. So a lot of my days, again, look like this. I think being creative, it's kind of a buzzword. Everyone wants to work in the creative world. No one really knows what working in the creative industry means, not even the people that work in the creative industries. For me, this is what creative process is. It can be anything. It can be from writing an Instagram post to doing a big strategy for a big brand collab. you're always going to go through phases. You're always going to hate what you're doing. And this is exactly what happened to me as I was doing this presentation. This is me on Sunday. This is me on Monday night. This is me last night at the airport, changing the presentation completely because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to get out of this talk today. So because it was easy enough to talk about me, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to communicate today. But I think I found the connecting key this morning at about 4 a.m. In Gatwick Airport. And I think looking back at my experience so far, what I've always wanted to do has been connecting with other people. So whether that has been through social media, producing content, writing, or creating brand partnerships and like going out to brands and charities and being like, hey, do you want to do something good together? What I really like is connecting. And the reason why I wanted to talk about connections today, and it's because at the base of connections is emotional intelligence, which is something I really care personally, and it's something that I try to bring into my day-to-day job every day, whether that's with team interactions or in the actual job that I do. So what is emotional intelligence? So people define it, the big dictionary defines emotional intelligence as the ability to handle every interpersonal relationship with judgment and empathetically. So obviously empathy is pretty key in having emotional intelligence. With empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So does that mean you have to have the same experience? Not necessarily, but it means that you're able to understand that experience with your emotional intelligence. So, there's a heaps of research about empathy, as you can imagine, but what I stuck upon and I really liked was this journal from Harvard Business Review in 2020 that defined how to build empathy, which I thought was really applicable in brand strategy. So it defines building empathy as embracing the fact that you don't know anything, that you need to embrace the radical difference of others to really appreciate what their experience is. You have to commit to having that understanding, and then you're going to be able to embrace the community and foster that community. So obviously practicing empathy will then go and feed what in brand strategy is called an emotional capital. So let's make a step back for a second. When we talk about capital, and that's how I got there from the team of Treasure from CreativeMornings, was like, so treasure is something that you want to find. And brands are always after these capitals. Obviously they're after physical capital in terms of money, but then they're also after emotional, cultural, social capital, human capital. Why do they want that? And what is a capital? So a capital is basically defined as any bank account. Imagine a bank account. Every interaction that you have, any transaction is going to deplete or enrich that bank account. And it's exactly the same thing in brand strategy when you talk about having a cultural capital, having community, having emotional capital, etc., etc., and human capital being the team. So how do brands build emotional capital? Is through the power of storytelling. That's pretty self-explanatory. You know the brands for the past 100 years since they've existed, they've tried to communicate a story. You have to express authenticity, and you have to have emotional awareness. So that again brings us back to empathy. And this is how this girl, because she's actually younger than I am, Nadia Nesri, she's a startup founder, CEO at 27 years old. She's founded 5 startups. So she's one of those. But in one of her TED Talks, she defined building emotional capital in this way, with these 3 avenues. So the question is, actually, before I go to the next slide, we know brands want to build emotional capital, but brands generally tend to think, and that's the main mistake, that if you build a great brand, people will come. And it doesn't really work like that. From experience, it happens so often at work that they come and they're like, we've got this great t-shirt. Can you make something with it? And I'm like, no, not really. What's the story? But who created it? Who designed it? What am I going to tell about this t-shirt? I know that Everpress, for instance, has got, as any brand, you will have your values, right? So the values for Everpress are be humble, stay creative, empower creativity, be humble, like the Kendrick Lamar song. Empower creativity, and give a shit. So I always need, whenever I do something, whenever I think about communicating something, I need to think of these 3 pillars. Because it's not enough for me to be like, we're a great brand, for expect customers to actually engage and partners to actually want to connect with us. So the thing is that building brands with emotional intelligence, it's like, in my opinion, it's key, because you can build the best brands, but without understanding what goes behind closed doors, without understanding those treasures from your customers, from your partners, from your users, it's going to feel like an empty party, and you're going to end up looking sad like this little kid from that 90s movie. So the key that I think for any good marketer, or at least what I'm trying to apply every day, is to read the room. So I have some aspirations about being a DJ. I'm not a great DJ, I'm a shit DJ. But what do DJs do when they go to parties? Think of a very good ballroom set. The magic of what happens in a very good ballroom set that you're going to watch on a laptop because you're not there. What you really enjoy, yes, is the music. Yes, the music, they might get the best DJs. But really what happens is the people are partying, the people are engaging, the people are really happy, and the DJ himself, because you're reading the room, they're able to read the emotions and understand what people want to dance to and what they're going to get excited by. So being a marketer is not that different. I've created a lot of memes for this. I'm hoping you appreciate them, because it's like 10 memes. So as a marketer, you're kind of like that sad little person in the corner, and you're just like always trying to like eavesdrop what people are saying. So what is the key to read the room? Obviously, you're reading the room, which means you're understanding your customers with emotional intelligence, you're trying to connect, and then you're gonna be able to foster that sense of community. So the community is a bit of a word, one of those words that I hate to use, but I don't really have a better word for it. Again, one other of my favorite brand strategies in recent years is this lady called Anna Angelic. She's now the head of brand at what's it called? They recalled that Iceberg. Like that very 90s brand, and she managed to like make something amazing out of it, and it was a very dead brand. So Anna Angelic, in her latest journal, she explains like the 4 C's of brand building as having community, culture, creation, and collaboration. So we're not really gonna go deep into all of them, because that's gonna be a bit boring, and I'm not here. But the 2 key words that we're using today, the community and culture, those are the 2 treasures that, despite being annoying buzzwords, I really want to focus on. So other than emotional capital, I need to drink some water. The other big capital that brands and brand strategy are constantly after is cultural capital. The problem with culture becoming something so on the mind of everyone is that obviously culture is really difficult to make up. You can't make up culture. Make up like culture, you can manufacture it in like meetings. We can sit here and be like, okay, this is the culture of these brands. We can say what the culture today is of CreativeMornings, right? We can all sit together, we can get to know each other, so we can be like, wow, that was a great vibe, and that's the culture that we're bringing to the space. But with brand building, it's not that easy. So one of the big papers that I read before, because I had ideas, but I wanted people to like confirm that I had the good idea, so I read a lot before doing this talk. And then I found this really interesting journal where this guy that works at Ogilvy is like one of the main communication agencies around the world. He's defining like this paper from 2019, so obviously it's a bit, you have to nitpick what you want to read out of it because it's before pandemic, so not all of it is relevant. But he defines the work, that basically the journey of brands, from brands being symbols, imagine a switch for Nike, brands becoming story and building a narrative, and then brands now like this day and age becoming systems. So one of the easiest examples to make is obviously Nike. Imagine the Nike swoosh. Nike has become something with a narrative, something that people know exactly what they're talking about when they tell you to just do it, to go out there and run, to become an athlete, to be an athlete and to feel an athlete. And then they become a system. So when we're talking about brand systems, it's basically imagining Nike is like having obviously the main brand, and then there's Nike Run, there's Nike Run Club, there's Nike Women, Nike Football, etc., etc. So that system was born because customers were asking for that system to be born. because they weren't like having just one brand wasn't enough. So the reason why Nike, obviously, and many other sportswear brands do it particularly well, better than luxury brands in my idea. But the reason why it works so well is because that system has been done. Am I running out of time? Oh. That system has been built with the customers. So the problem though, that brands, it's not necessarily a problem, but let's say that like the issue is that brands have evolved from being tokens of culture to being tools of culture, and that's really the difficult thing to do as a brand strategy, to understand how you do that job, because you don't want to be tokenistic, you do want to become something that people actually believe in and they want to be involved in that system. So obviously the example of Nike is that people don't use Nike to feel athletic, they use Nike to be an athlete, and that's the whole difference. And that's what they managed to do, and what I think every brand should just manage to do. But we have another problem, and that's maybe the last problem I'm going to talk about today. That building culture has become, because it has become a bit of an obsession for a lot of brands. Brands are what I'm liking to, like I want to call the washing era. So the greenwashing, the pinkwashing, the rainbow washing, because they want to jump on so many bandwagons. They want to. But whatever press went through, like as fast, like yesterday was non-binary people visibility day, and I realized yesterday morning, because I keep a cultural calendar, but I can't keep track of every day. And then yesterday someone came to me and they were like, "Oh, we're not doing anything for visibility, like non-binary visibility day," and I was like, I don't have a story to say, like I don't have anything to tell. I'm not gonna post something randomly just because we need to post an hashtag. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. Because the problem, oh no, there was another meme. Oh, it's gone. Oh, maybe we'll find it. Yes, that's it. So the problem, obviously, with culture is that when you're trying to like pink wash, rainbow wash, blah, 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 your brand voice is basically like this fake attempt to transform what happens between closed doors in a brand, like in a brand meeting, which is basically corporate bullshit, and you want to transform that into culture. So a lot of the times, this is what ends up happening. Which is like rainbow logos for pride, and the green labels for the sustainable things, and the recycled garments, etc., etc. So what's happening because of this is that the problem is that when we're trying to be, I'm going to read it out because it's actually really great, that when something tries to be human, yet imperceptibly misses the mark, it gives us the EBGs. So obviously we don't trust that voice anymore because it's manufactured, it's not real, it's not authentic. So obviously what's happening is that we're developing trust issues, and not just that, like not just the customers, we as marketers are developing trust issues, because this is what happens. We tell people this is a panda, what's it called, lollipop, and then you take out the packaging and it's just a white lollipop. So that's disappointing, and you don't want that to happen to your customers. So obviously the trust issues that brands are facing is that people can be brands, but brands cannot be people, and that would deserve like a whole other talk about why celebrity brands are being so successful right now, and that's because the celebrity brand is basically a person. So it's so easy to build a brand around a person that's already a brand, like what's been happening in the last 15 years with obviously social media and everything that came after it is that we've been branding ourselves. Like I'm branding myself. I'm posting stuff on Instagram constantly, being like, hey, I'm this great brand manager, I'm this great writer and DJ. I'm not. But it works. Like I'm doing a bit of brand strategy for myself, and that's what celebrities are doing, and that's why people will trust a celebrity brand but struggle so much to trust new brands on the block. And it's because they don't have that, what's the word? That kind of like track record of being authentic and trustworthy. So, and I'm getting to the end of it. Brand building and successful brand building is basically like democracy. You have to listen to the people that use your brand, that want to come to your brand, that are your customers and are your users. So if people are asking you to be better, you can do that, but you need to do that with participation. It should be a bit more centered, it's off-centered. But obviously democracy, it only works when everyone is engaged. So when we're asking customers, to engage with our manufactured campaigns where everyone is diverse, everything is great, look at us, we're so good. People are not going to trust us unless we're asking them to co-create it with us. And that's the treasure that I want to get to today. So brand systems like the one of Nike, Patagonia, make all the examples that you want to make, only works when the customers are co-creating it with the people sitting in the board tables. So I've taken the liberty of redoing the 4Cs from Anna Angelic and having all the 4Cs that she was mentioning, but then adding a fifth, which is co-creation. So, and I'll leave it here. I think that only by using that emotional intelligence and the empathy that we're going to be able to connect with our customers, co-create brands that are actually going to work in the long term. So that's double the quote. That's a mistake. So I'm going to leave you with that, and obviously if that fails, try screaming.
Grazie mille. Thank you very much for your presentation, and especially to uncover something that is really, really, really close to our core values, that is we believe in giving a shit. So
Nice.
You basically are an example of giving giving a shit because you travel all the way to come here and speak with us. Same for you because you woke up, you came here with the hot weather and whatever.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you for giving a shit to everyone.
Thank you.
So I don't know if there are some questions. We have some couple of minutes more. Or not. You are free to stay in spaces to work today if you want. You're welcome here. And we will start giving a shit again after the summer vacation. So let's meet again in September. But stay connected to our social networks and subscribe to our newsletter to know all the new dates, teams, and speakers. Thank you.